Where's Creed? Creed?
Here.
Quality assurance. Your job. I really think you screwed the pooch on this one, Creed. Because of you, the entire company is in jeopardy.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and we've been keeping up with all the fallout of COVID-19 coronavirus on Disney, and some of the adjacent kind of properties. And today we have more information about the financial fallout for Disney, but also for Universal as well. They're having a lot of issues as well. And today, talking with me about this is the financial guru of Thinking Critical, Nalo. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Wes. Thanks for having me back on, and happy to share my point of view.
Well, I'm glad you could make it. And if this is your first time on Thinking Critical, consider giving us a subscribe, a thumbs up to the video. If you've been coming to the channel for a while now, but you haven't subscribed, come on, let's make it official. Let's stop hiding it from mom and dad, and let them know that we are a thing together. Give a subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. But now let's kind of get into the information. So the good news is that we know Shanghai Disneyland theme park is finally opening on May 11th. This will be the first kind of test run for Disney opening a park in one of those hot spots. Obviously, Shanghai was a big one. We know that they did open shops around Shanghai somewhat recently, but now the park itself is reopening. And we do have the parameters for Disney World and Universal Studios in Orlando for them to opening up. And it sounds like they're going to be shooting for like a mid-June timeframe. Among the recommendations from the local officials there, they will be operating at 50% capacity during the phase 1 period, and that will increase to 75% capacity in the phase 2 period. I believe they're also requesting seniors 65 and older not attend the parks. The staff that work there will be wearing face masks. There will be touchless hand sanitizer available, temperature checks for staffs, as well as regular wipe downs on all railings and surfaces, of course, the rides as well. And also any staff member above 65 will be encouraged not to go to work during these times. So far, major theme parks have been closed nationwide since mid-March because of coronavirus, COVID-19. A lot of people furloughed, a lot of people taking pay cuts, a lot of people being laid off. But now we finally have some parameters. We have some successes. Finally, theme parks are going to be opening up.
Yeah, it's really great to see. It kind of mirrors in a way the movie theater situation where we're finally starting to see the wheels turn. But at the same time, there's going to be these new procedures in place, and we kind of have to see to what extent there is this pent up consumer demand who, they just have to get back on the roller coaster.
Disney and Universal have both taken an enormous financial haircut. Nobody worse than Disney. We finally got their second quarter financial reports out, and while they did beat estimates, it's still not very good. They did come in with a total revenue of $18 billion, rising 21%, which did, like I said, edged out Wall Street estimates. But they took a $1 billion loss from their theme park division. Their earnings came in at 60 cents a share, down 63% from the previous quarter in 2019. And analysts were projecting at 88 cents a share on a revenue of $17.81 billion. There were some bright spots, media network, studio entertainment as far as licensing, and the streaming Disney Plus obviously has been one of the big ones. It's not looking good, but I guess it could be worse, Nalo.
Yeah, it's not looking good, and we're really getting kind of more insight into how Disney actually operates in the sense that their revenue is up to $18 billion, but their profit in this quarter was down 91%. So that kind of actually speaks to how their actual profit margins are really driven by the parks, at least in the immediate, especially if they had to delay a bunch of movies being released. And so they've absorbed over a $1 billion loss in the theme parks. But then in a kind of shocking move, the CFO of Disney, Christine McCarthy, detailed that then the company would be suspending dividend payments for July. And so by not issuing this semi-annual dividend, they're actually preserving $1.6 billion in cash. So it's interesting to me that kind of equals the amount that they lost from the theme parks. And that would be based off these 88 cents a share previously paid out. And so I think previously it was kind of a critique that they were moving forward with these payouts, given that they were furloughing so many people. And I think that they were trying to signal to the shareholders, things are normal, we'll be paying this dividend. But this kind of new financials really shows that they got to cancel this dividend to balance out the massive loss they took from the parks being closed.
Financially speaking, it was the right thing to do. And I do appreciate you mentioning that while there was a revenue increase, the profit was decreased. And that's because all those Fox acquisitions finally are on the books now. They certainly weren't at the same period last year. So all those Fox television properties, obviously the movie properties as well, they have a larger stake in Hulu and things like that. So all those acquisitions are finally on the books. So yes, revenues are up, but yeah, profits are way down right now.
Yeah, and not just for Disney, but we also see NBC Universal reported 32% loss in revenue from theme parks being closed as well. Universal is kind of the baby sister of Disney in the sense that they have multiple theme parks worldwide. And we're going to see that kind of shadowing the situation, but really kind of shows how much these massive conglomerates actually rely on the theme parks, the ticket prices, the food that might be a little bit overpriced, the hotels, the transportation. All of that kind of comes into one extreme amusement park experience, and we're finally getting a sense of how crucial that is for these businesses.
With Disney stocks, we've seen they basically, the last year high was, I think, at about 150. It seems to have settled in at about $100 a share after dropping down to, I believe, about $90, which was shocking that it could actually go that low. So, it's taken about a 33% decrease as far as stock prices. And that's probably that could get worse, citing risk and uncertainty in the market over a possible second wave of coronavirus this year. Analysts actually downgraded Walt Disney's stocks again right the day before their earnings report came out. They're now rating as a neutral instead of a buy. And that's from Michael Nathanson of MoffettNathanson, as far as his projections. And this was an admission that they believe the economic impact on the company will actually be much longer than anticipated. And his forecasts are really bad. Disney Parks, 33% drop in revenue. The Media Networks division, 3% loss. And the Films division, a 23% loss. It's not looking good for 2020. Although they are projecting that they will rebound somewhat in 2021 and then a lot more in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, Disney's quarter looked pretty bad, but there was at least some good news that they had an increase in kind of cash flow. But to really put things in perspective, they have $18 billion in revenue. And in this quarter, they had only $475 million in profit. And so that is just a dramatic ratio of cash coming in and cash you actually get to keep. And so, this was a rough quarter, but the fact that they're getting to preserve the amount of money they had lost on the theme parks from canceling this kind of stock payment out, they'll be able to put these strategic changes in effect, open the parks with new procedures, and really start to, over probably a 2-year period, try to build up to full capacity.
One of the odd things was right before all this happened, of course, Bob Chapek was named the new CEO, and Bob Iger was kind of going to step down. He, of course, has stepped back into the limelight and is really helping guide Disney through all these very tumultuous times after really taking Disney to new heights, during his 15 years on the job. As you mentioned, NBC Universal, basically one of the competitors for Disney as far as entertainment and theme parks, their parent company, Comcast, reported a 32% loss in revenue from theme parks, a 22% decline in film segment revenues, and a part of that was a 29% drop in revenue from ticket sales. Obviously, the movie industry and the lack of theaters being open is devastating entertainment companies right now. One of the big issues that NBC Universal cited in their quarterly report, the status of live sporting events, is really hurting them. They don't really have content for a lot of their sports networks and things like that. Certainly Disney has experienced that with ESPN as well. And they also expect, while viewing is kind of up right now as everyone's been quarantined, advertising revenue is going to continue declining as people are paying less for those slots. There's less money out there on the market. There's less money for marketing budgets.
In terms of Comcast, what to look out for is Peacock, the company's new streaming service. It will, slightly change the equation for them. It had a soft launch. It'll be launching in full in July. The pandemic may no longer be keeping people at home, but unlike Disney Plus or HBO Max, there will be a for-free version of Peacock, so they might be able to tap into extra ad sales. But like you said, since everybody's watching streaming services, watching YouTube videos, watching things, ad revenue's down altogether. And so we really get to look under the hood and see that, live sporting events, hotels, parks is really where the money's made for these companies. And entertainment is kind of a way to extend the brand, extend the revenue, but the profit is really coming from these kind of in-person activities. And that also includes to filming. So Marvel hasn't actually Disney has not actually set a time frame for when the filming of these new blockbusters will resume. They're currently on pause. And so that kind of builds in these further delays, these further maybe shocking profit decreases as they try to build up through the year.
Obviously, Universal has a couple of monster franchises as well, in the Fast and the Furious, Jurassic Park, among others. Universal's having a lot of issues, and Peacock. I find this interesting. It feels like they missed the window to launch the streaming service, whereas Disney kind of got in there early by necessity. Didn't really have all the new content available, but were there for parents that were home with their kids for prolonged periods of times. Obviously, there's a lot of content in there for children. Feels like NBC probably missed the boat, and they also don't have any new content for streaming. They weren't really expecting to hit anything big until 2021 anyway.
And that said, their biggest draw right now was going to be The Office getting off Netflix and onto Peacock. Although I did see some trailers for original content on Peacock. There's going to be a series based off the dystopian novel Brave New World, which many do cherish. It looked okay. I'm not sure if I would pay for the service, but it might get me to watch it and watch out some ads. But that doesn't seem like they have much in their arsenal, and they're really banking on actually streaming the Olympics. So as we were saying, sports and live events play a big role here. And for me, I think it's still unclear how the Olympics will actually play out, given that it's still so far away and we don't know what might pop up in the meantime.
But we're seeing a lot of the financial fallout. The quarterly reports are in. Like we mentioned, Disney took an enormous financial haircut, $1 billion loss just on the theme parks alone. I think it was over that, and they had to cancel their dividends. NBC, Universal, Comcast, massive losses also in the quarter compared to what they would have experienced last year. And I don't know. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, it seems to be, but my only real hope, other than people being able to get back to work, who work for these big industries, is that it really is kind of like a mouthwash where old practices, chasing revenue streams that wasn't really working out, really kind of we get this accelerated market development within the span of a year. And hopefully all these things open up in a way that actually want to bring people back and spend their money wisely, and they're going to get the entertainment they pay for, whether that's in the park or in the theater, but in a way that everyone feels safe, everyone feels like they're getting a good part of the deal, and we can go back to living.
So it's kind of weird. Everyone keeps putting all their eggs in this streaming basket, but one of the elephant in the room is even Netflix themselves have not really come up with how to do streaming and not go into massive amounts of debt to fund the production of new shows and all that stuff. So while they are making a lot of money, and certainly their stock prices are very good, but if you look at their cash to debt ratio, it's absolutely insane because it costs so much money to create this new content and keep it churning.
That's actually a really good point, that everyone's trying to get into the streaming to get the eyeballs and get the subscribers, but it's not proven to be profitable. And as we even see with Disney, their profit really is hinged on the amusement parks themselves. And it kind of reminds me of other kinds of things like a WeWork or a Uber that just get billions and billions and billions of dollars in investment, and they take out billions and billions of dollars of debt, and they never once turn a profit. And that's kind of everyone's chasing this Netflix model, but it is just a race to the bottom of debt and potentially, bankruptcy some long term down the line.
That's somewhat what I think, but obviously we'll see how the markets and everything end up playing out, because there's got to be a more efficient way to produce all that content, get it onto the streaming without just going so far in debt, because it really costs a lot of money to just keep putting that stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like almost like realistically, Netflix needs to be charging like $50 a month to really pay off that debt and start turning a profit. Otherwise, they're just like chasing every single person with a computer to become a subscriber. Those are kind of their two options. I'm speaking obviously with some hyperbole. I don't know the exact target price they need to be able to pay down their debt, but they are totally very much subsidizing these services up just to try to get their subscriber counts up, so then they can announce that and their stock then goes up, and it's kind of just this, shell game. We haven't actually seen any proven models that streaming services lead to profit.
Not yet. We just know that they lead to massive losses. I know, like, Disney was already projecting $4.5 billion losses in 2020, based on streaming. I think it was going to be another $4 billion in 2021 by the projections. Obviously, with Disney Plus already hitting 50 million subscribers, they weren't expecting to get anywhere near that until like 2023. So they're probably going to make a little bit more money on this, but everything, production, everything is halted. So, time will tell. Nalo, thank you so much for joining the channel today. I really enjoyed the discussion, and lots of things happening in the financial world as far as entertainment and pop culture.
Yeah, things are moving fast week in and week out, and we will continue to cover this as it develops. Thanks for having me back on.
Thanks, buddy. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat po, and I'm out.